The moment I opened my front door and saw the empty space where my package should have been, my stomach dropped. Again. Not delayed, not misplaced, stolen. 5th time this month. And just like every other time, there was no doubt in my mind who had taken it. I turned slowly and looked across the street. There she was. Karen, HOA president, professional snitch, neighborhood tyrant. She was out in her yard trimming her already perfect hedges, sunglasses on, lips pursed in that smug little way that made my blood boil. I swear she glanced at my porch, saw the empty spot, and smirked. That was it. I was done playing nice. I was done filing reports, done checking security cams, only to find her staying just out of frame like she knew exactly where the blind spots were. Karen wasn't just lucky, she was calculated. I could feel it. And if she wanted to act like she was smarter than me, fine. Challenge accepted. I didn't want revenge. I wanted justice. Poetic, pink, glitter-filled justice. Something she'd never forget. Something the entire internet would never let her forget. I turned back into the house, grabbed my phone, and called my best friend Jake. "It's go time," I said. "We're building the bomb." At first I thought it was just a fluke, a delayed shipment, a misdelivered box. Nothing unusual. Happens all the time, right? But then it happened again and again and again. Suddenly, it wasn't just a missing book or a lost charger. It was my limited edition headphones, my niece's birthday present, the custom tools I'd ordered for my garage project, all gone. And every single time, the tracking said the same thing. Delivered. Porch drop. Middle of the day. Funny thing was, I worked from home. I was usually there. And yet somehow, I never heard a knock. Never saw the delivery. Just vanished. Like magic. Porch pirates, maybe? But our street's quiet. Cul-de-sac. Safe. Not exactly the kind of place where packages disappear in broad daylight. Except they were. And I had a feeling I knew why. Karen. Every neighborhood has a Karen. Ours just happened to be the HOA president. The kind of woman who wore heels to check mailbox paint colors and carried a clipboard like it was a badge of honor. She'd already fined me twice, for leaving my trash can out 6 minutes past pickup and for having non-compliant grass length, whatever that meant. She watched everything, and she was always outside, always perfectly timed. I tried to shake it off. Maybe it really was bad luck. Or maybe the mail guy just had a vendetta against me. But then, one afternoon, I got home early from picking up lunch, and I saw it. A delivery truck had just pulled away. I saw the driver wave at the security cam and place a package on my porch. No more than 2 minutes later, I caught a flicker of motion through the living room blinds. Someone walking up my steps. I rushed to the door, yanked it open, and the package was gone. No car pulling away, no random stranger fleeing the scene, but across the street? Karen was outside, again. This time trimming her front bushes with a pair of garden shears like she was auditioning for a reality show about topiary warfare. And there, tucked under her arm, was a familiar-looking box. Same size, same tape. She wasn't even trying to hide it. I stood there in shock. Part of me wanted to march right over and confront her. But I knew how that would go. She'd deny everything, twist it, claim I was harassing her, call the HOA. No. If I was going to stop her, I needed proof. Hard, undeniable proof. And maybe a little bit of glitter. I figured the easiest way to catch her was security footage. I already had a camera pointing at the porch, angled just enough to catch the delivery drop-offs. So I waited. The next package was something small. A replacement part for my drill. Nothing flashy, but enough to bait her. I watched the delivery happen live, left right on the mat, time-stamped, perfect. I stepped away for 5 minutes, literally 5, and when I came back, gone. Again, I ran straight to the footage, fast-forwarded through the timestamp. At exactly 2:06 p.m., the package sat there, untouched. By 2:11, it had disappeared like a magician's prop. No person, no hand, no car, no shadow. It was like she had some sixth sense for camera blind spots, I adjusted the angle, repositioned it, added a second one from the window. Next time, same thing. Vanished. Poof. Nothing but empty steps and that eerie quiet that only shows up when you're being messed with and they know it. Karen was too smart. She knew exactly where the cameras could see. She didn't just snatch the packages, she choreographed it like it was a heist movie. She'd wait until my attention drifted, strike in seconds, and always stay just out of frame. I even checked reflections in my neighbor's car window. Nothing. It was like she had a map of every blind spot on my property. Jake, my best friend, thought it was hilarious. "She's outsmarting you, man," he said over the phone. "She's not outsmarting me," I muttered. "She's just experienced." "You're telling me HOA Karen is a criminal mastermind?" "I'm telling you she's stealing my stuff and getting away with it." That's when I realized something important. This wasn't going to be solved with regular surveillance. Karen wasn't just your average busybody. She was methodical, obsessed with control. Everything in her world had to be neat, tidy, rule-abiding, unless she was the one breaking the rules. She thought she was untouchable. Worse, she thought she was smarter than me. And I don't do well with people who think they're smarter than me. So if I couldn't catch her the usual way, I had to think differently. Forget cameras, forget complaints, forget playing defense. If she wanted to play games, I'd play back. Only this time, I'd be the one setting the rules. Jake was the first person I called, mostly because he knew how to wire things without blowing them up, also because he loved chaos. When I told him what I had in mind, he didn't even hesitate. "You want to build what?" he asked, already laughing. "A glitter bomb," I said. "Small, simple, non-lethal, just humiliating." "Dude," he breathed, "I've been waiting my whole life for this call." We met up in my garage that night. I had an old cardboard shipping box, a couple of springs from a busted screen door, and a ridiculous amount of pink craft glitter left over from my niece's birthday party. Jake brought over a micro-motion sensor and a tiny battery-powered camera he'd pulled from some old drone project. We were ready. The idea was simple. The second the box was lifted and the lid opened, it would trigger the spring mechanism and fire the glitter into the air. The motion sensor would activate the camera, giving me live footage of the thief's face. But glitter alone wasn't enough. It needed a twist, something extra. "Let's add dye," Jake said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "Dye?" "Yeah, like hair salon dye. Bright, permanent, something that screams, 'I messed up.'" So we took a trip to the local beauty supply store and grabbed the brightest hot pink semi-permanent dye we could find. We loaded it into a small squirt bottle that would fire the moment the glitter exploded. After a couple failed test runs, and one unfortunate incident where we accidentally dyed Jake's hoodie, we had a working prototype. It wasn't pretty, but it worked. A box of doom, disguised as a harmless Amazon package. We set it up on my porch the next morning, marked "Fragile" in thick red letters, addressed to me, and labeled with the one thing I knew Karen couldn't resist: luxury skincare kit. Then we waited. I sat by the window like a kid on Christmas Eve, staring through the blinds. Jake was on speaker, pacing around his apartment like a caged animal. "You think she'll take the bait?" he asked. "She always does." Sure enough, less than 20 minutes later, there she was. Karen, yoga pants, giant sunglasses, acting like she was out for her daily walk. She looked both ways, because of course she did, then walked straight up to my porch. No hesitation, no shame. She scooped up the box like it was hers and strutted back across the street. I whispered into the phone. "She took it!" Jake gasped. "Oh my God, this is it." I sprinted back to my laptop, heart pounding, palms sweaty. Jake was still on the line, practically yelling, "Switch to the feed! Switch to the feed!" I opened the app, and there it was. Grainy at first, then sharpening into perfect, high-definition chaos. The camera inside the box kicked on right as Karen walked into her kitchen. She set the package on her counter, casually wiped her sunglasses clean, and then, With the grace of someone who thought they were about to enjoy stolen luxury, she peeled the tape. The moment the lid lifted, everything exploded. A violent burst of hot pink glitter shot into the air like a 4th of July firework. A split second later, the dye rig activated and blasted upward in a sticky fountain of neon horror. The camera caught it all. Karen screamed, loud, high-pitched, like a kettle being thrown off a cliff. She staggered back, flailing, covered from hair to ankles in a storm of pink sparkles and dye. It looked like someone had dumped a unicorn blender on her. Her hands waved in the air like she was fighting invisible bees. Then, in a glorious moment I will never forget, she slipped on her own tile floor and landed with a wet splat, legs in the air, glitter clouds still swirling around her like evil fairy dust. Jake was screaming with laughter on the other end. Bro, is this real life?" I couldn't answer. I was doubled over, crying with laughter, watching her try to crawl out of the mess like a glitter-soaked swamp monster. And then it got better. Karen, in her panic, ran straight outside. Her front door flew open, and there she was, soaked in pink, glitter stuck to her skin, her hair looking like it lost a fight with a cotton candy machine, right as two neighbors walked by with their dog. They froze. Karen shrieked at them to stop staring. The dog barked. The couple stared. One of them actually dropped their coffee. From my window, I watched it all unfold like the climax of a soap opera. Karen realized she was being watched and whipped around, only to see me, standing calmly behind my own blinds, holding my phone, grinning. Our eyes met, and for the first time ever, I saw it. Fear. Karen knew. She knew I'd set her up, and she had no idea what to do next. I spent the next hour watching the footage on a loop. Every time Karen's smug expression shifted to pure horror, it got funnier. Her scream, her flailing arms, the glitter raining down like judgment from above, it was perfect, a masterpiece of petty revenge. Jake called again, out of breath from laughing. "Upload it," he gasped. "Dude, the world needs this." I hesitated. I wanted to. Oh man, I wanted to. But I knew Karen. She'd deny everything, spin it, play the victim. She'd probably claim I mailed her a biohazard and sue me for emotional distress. I needed more than just one explosion, because the truth was, this wasn't an isolated thing. She'd been stealing from me for weeks, maybe even longer. And something about the way she handled that box, how confidently she opened it like it was hers. I had a gut feeling mine weren't the only packages she'd taken. This wasn't just about glitter anymore. It was about exposing her, completely. No denials, no escape. So I made a plan. I started by editing the footage just enough to clean it up. Added a title. Package Thief Gets Instant Karma, Caught in 4K. I didn't post it right away. I saved it, let it simmer. Then I started looking through my neighborhood's Facebook group, and there it was. Posts from neighbors complaining about missing deliveries, makeup, electronics, even a kid's birthday gift. Karen had been busy. I messaged a few of them, carefully, not mentioning names, just asking questions. Most of them didn't have cameras. A few said they suspected someone, but didn't want to stir up drama. One person even joked, "It's probably Karen, she's always lurking." Bingo! Jake was all in. "So what's the plan? More glitter? Crickets? Exploding snakes?" "No," I said, staring at the footage. "We upgrade. Bigger. Smarter. Unforgettable." "Unforgettable," he repeated, already giddy. "You're cooking up something evil, aren't you?" I nodded slowly. She thinks she got hit once. She thinks that's the end. But she doesn't know I've only just started. That night, while the pink dye dried on Karen's porch and the last of the glitter clung to her doormat, I was in my garage sketching out Phase 2. The first bomb had been a warning shot. The next one? It was going to be war. I didn't sleep that night. Not out of fear, adrenaline. My brain was already spinning, designing, imagining every humiliating detail of what was about to become the most legendary glitter bomb the internet had ever seen. If Karen thought she'd been embarrassed before, she had no idea what was coming. The first bomb? That was child's play. This one would be cinematic. I dragged out an old laptop cleared off my workbench and started sketching the plan. First, the box needed to look even more enticing, bigger, heavier, high-end branding. I printed a fake shipping label that said Deluxe Tech Bundle in bold gold letters. That alone would get Karen's greedy little hands twitching. Then came the guts. First chamber, ultra-fine glitter. The kind that gets into your eyelashes, your shoes, your soul. I loaded it into a spring-loaded rig that would release in every direction the moment the lid opened. Second chamber, upgraded dye. Not just pink this time, UV reactive blue and neon green. Under regular light, it would look like harmless splatter. But under black light, she'd glow like a radioactive jellyfish for weeks. Third chamber? Oh, that was my favorite. A stench bomb. Not dangerous, but deeply, horrifically unpleasant. I mixed up a cocktail of synthetic skunk spray and concentrated sulfur oil, enough to clear a room in 5 seconds flat. The release would be delayed, giving her just enough time to panic from the glitter and dye before the smell hit like a semi-truck. Jake came by to help with assembly. The moment he saw the blueprint, he just stared at me. "Dude," he said, "you're not building a trap. You're creating a legacy." We worked for hours, laughing through every adjustment. It wasn't just funny anymore, it was art. When we finally sealed the box and gave it a test shake, I stood back and looked at it like a proud parent. "This," I whispered, "is going to ruin her week." The next morning, I placed the package carefully on my porch, right in the usual spot, early, like always. I even added fake tracking updates to my front door app, just in case she was watching. Then I sat by the window, coffee in hand, phone in the other, live feed already running. Jake was on speaker. "She's not going to fall for it again," he said. "She will," I replied. "Karen can't resist a second chance, especially if it means getting the last word." And right on cue, the blinds across the street shifted. Game on. She took the bait. I watched from behind the curtain as Karen crept out of her house like some sort of suburban raccoon, hoodie on this time, sunglasses again, even though it was cloudy, like the disguise would make any difference. She glanced around like she always did, pretending to check her mailbox, even though she hadn't received actual mail since 2006. Then, just like before, she made her move. Karen strutted across her lawn and up to my porch like she had every right in the world to be there. I held my breath. She bent down, grabbed the fake package, and tucked it under her arm like a prize. Then back across the street she went, quick but calm, like this was just her morning routine. I switched to the feed. Inside the box, the hidden camera came alive just as she set it on her kitchen counter. She pulled the tape, popped the lid. Boom! The glitter hit first. A swirling storm of neon blue and silver exploded into the air, coating her hands, her sweatshirt, the counter, everything. She shrieked, stumbling back just as the dye chamber burst. Splat! UV reactive goo painted her in splotches of green and pink. Her face, her arms, even her hair got splashed. Under normal light it looked bad. Under black light, she'd glow like a disco ball at a rave. But the real kicker, 3 seconds later, hiss! The stench bomb activated. She screamed again, loud, then gagged. The smell hit her like a wave. Her face contorted in horror. She stumbled back, clutching her nose, but it was too late. The camera caught her flailing, slipping again on the glitter-covered tile. This time she landed against a cabinet, knocking over a decorative bowl of plastic lemons. Jake was wheezing in my ear. "She looks like she got mugged by a Lisa Frank folder." And then, Karen ran outside, not thinking, not planning, just pure instinct. She burst through her front door, hands out, still glowing from the dye, glitter flying off her like sparks, and reeking like a burnt dumpster. And of course, who was standing across the street watering his lawn? Steve, HOA president. He dropped the hose, literally. "Karen?" he called, blinking. She froze mid-run, realizing too late that she'd just made things worse, much worse. And from my window, I watched it all, recording every glorious second. This wasn't just revenge anymore. This was justice with sprinkles. Steve just stood there, garden hose dangling in one hand, mouth slightly open as Karen flailed on her front lawn like a malfunctioning carnival ride. Glitter clung to every inch of her, arms, face, hair, while streaks of neon dye ran down her sweatshirt like a melted popsicle. And the smell? Even from across the street, Steve took a step back, wrinkling his nose. "Karen, what on earth?" She turned on him instantly, wild-eyed and panting, still waving her arms like she was trying to shake off invisible fire. "It's him!" she shrieked, pointing straight at my house. "He did this to me. He's targeting me. This is harassment." Steve blinked. "You're saying he glitter-bombed you?" "No," she snapped. "Yes, I mean, he left that package on purpose. He booby-trapped it." Steve's face didn't change. If anything, he looked more confused. "So, you stole another package?" Karen froze. The words hung in the air like smoke. She opened her mouth, then closed it, then opened it again. I thought it was suspicious," she yelled, flailing toward the now-missing box. "I was investigating, for the safety of the neighborhood." From my window, I almost choked. Investigating? That woman couldn't even spell subtle. Steve crossed his arms. "Karen, multiple residents have reported missing packages over the past few weeks. Are you saying you've been collecting them for safety?" Karen's jaw worked like she was chewing a lemon. I didn't mean—" Then she turned toward me. I was still at the window, smiling. She locked eyes with me, and her face twisted into something between fury and desperation. "He planted it. He set me up. He's been plotting this from the beginning." Steve looked at me, then at Karen, then down at his phone. "I'm going to need to see the footage," he said flatly. Karen turned ghost white. "Footage?" "Oh, yeah," I said, stepping out onto my porch, phone in hand. "I've got plenty." She looked like she wanted to scream, cry, and vanish all at once. "You can't. That's invasion of privacy." Steve sighed, already done with her. "Karen, he recorded his own porch. You walked up to it, twice. This isn't looking good." She stood there shaking, dye running down her arms, glitter stuck to her teeth, the scent of shame following her like a cloud. And in that moment, for the first time since she crowned herself HOA queen, Karen had absolutely nothing to say. Karen stood in the middle of her lawn, arms trembling, face twitching, dyed like a neon piñata, and covered in enough glitter to decorate a high school prom. The air reeked of whatever ungodly scent cocktail had exploded in her house, and now it was following her like a curse. Steve hadn't moved. He just stood there with his arms crossed, looking like a dad who'd just caught his kid smearing peanut butter on the ceiling. Calm, disappointed, done. "Karen," he said slowly, "you've got two choices here. You can explain yourself calmly, or you can keep screaming and prove everyone right." Wrong thing to say. She spun toward him, voice cracking. "Oh, don't you dare talk to me like that, Steve. I'm the one who's been protecting this neighborhood while you sit around pretending to care." His eyes narrowed. "By stealing people's mail?" "It's not stealing. I was inspecting it." "By opening it?" She didn't answer. At that moment, her husband Richard stepped outside. Poor guy looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. He took one look at Karen, glowing, ranting, covered in glitter, and sighed like his soul was trying to leave his body. "Karen," he muttered, rubbing his temples. "Please, just stop." She whirled on him. "Stop? Stop what? I'm the victim here." Richard blinked. "You're literally glowing." The neighbors had started coming out by now, drawn by the shouting. Mrs. Lopez from 2 doors down, the Millers with their dog, even old Mr. Jenkins, who never left the porch. A few had phones out, already recording. Karen saw them and shrieked, "Are you all filming me? This is harassment. You're all in on this." Nobody answered. "You should be thanking me. I've kept this place in order. I've reported every violation, every broken rule, every—" Yeah, Mrs. Lopez cut in. We know. You fined me for having wind chimes. Karen whipped around. They were too loud. And you reported the Millers for sidewalk chalk. That wasn't regulation-approved artwork. Mr. Jenkins cleared his throat. You called code enforcement on my lawn gnome. Karen pointed at him, voice shrill. That gnome was offensive. Richard turned and walked back inside without a word. Karen stood alone now, fuming in the silence, surrounded by people who'd finally had enough. And as I watched from my porch, still holding the phone, I realized something beautiful. She wasn't just losing control, she'd already lost it. The footage went live that night. I hadn't planned to upload it so soon, but after Karen's full-volume meltdown on her lawn, glitter, dye, stench, and all, I figured the world deserved to see it. I titled it, HOA Karen Gets Glitter Bombed Twice, Then Loses Her Mind on the Lawn. It took less than an hour to blow up. By morning, it had over 1.2 million views. By lunch, that number had doubled. Twitter was on fire. TikTok had it chopped into remix-ready chunks. There was already a slowed-down version of her scream set to dramatic music. Another clip had her yelling at Mr. Jenkins about his gnome, and someone overlaid text that read, "No mercy." Jake called me at least 6 times in a row, voice hoarse from laughing. "She's trending, bro, trending. You made her a meme." I didn't make her a meme. She made herself one. Within 24 hours, Karen wasn't just HOA infamous. She was internet royalty, in the worst way possible. Glitter Goblin, Queen of Pink Rage, Package Pirate Gets Poetic Justice. Every name worse than the last. People found old neighborhood posts she'd made, ones where she bragged about maintaining order and cracking down on non-compliant decorations. They dragged her through every comment thread. She tried to fight back, of course, posted on Facebook claiming I'd sabotaged her, said it was a setup, called it cyberbullying. But the internet wasn't having it. Screenshots of her storming the porch, videos of her opening the box, her very public confession to Steve in front of the neighborhood. It was all there, unedited, unavoidable, undeniable. Then came the fallout. Her job, a real estate office downtown, put her on administrative leave. Translation: they didn't want a walking glitter bomb representing their brand. The HOA board held an emergency meeting. I wasn't even invited, but Jake was. He texted me halfway through. They're voting to remove her from the board right now. It's not even close. By the end of the day, she was officially stripped of her position. No more HOA queen, no more clipboard, no more warning letters about garbage cans. And just like that, the power she clung to like a crown was gone. But Karen didn't disappear. Oh no. The next day, I got a knock on the door. I opened it and found a plain cardboard box on the mat. No label, no return address. I didn't touch it, because something told me Karen wasn't done yet. 2 days after the video went viral, 2 cops showed up at my door. I wasn't surprised. Karen doesn't go quietly. She goes nuclear. One officer was young, maybe mid-20s, still trying to look serious. The other looked like he'd seen it all. Worn-down eyes, hand resting lazily on his belt. "Sir," the younger one said, "we received a report of a suspicious device used on your porch." I almost laughed. "You mean the glitter bomb?" They didn't flinch. "We need to ask if you knowingly planted something designed to cause harm." I stepped aside. "Come in. I've got something to show you." I pulled up the footage, showed them the build, explained the mechanism, no explosives, no toxins, just glitter, dye, and a legally available stink spray you could order on Amazon. They watched Karen walk up, steal the package, and unleash pink chaos upon herself in glorious HD. By the end of it, the older officer cleared his throat. "So, let me get this straight. She took a package off your property, opened it in her home, and is now accusing you of attacking her?" "That's about right," I said. He turned to his partner. "And this is the third time she's called in a complaint this week?" The younger one nodded. "She said the HOA backed her, claimed she's building a case." Oh, she was. "Because while I was dealing with the cops, I also got an email from the HOA. Subject line: Notice of community violations." Yep. Karen had filed 4 new complaints against me in under 24 hours. One for creating a hostile living environment, one for public defamation, one for leaving prank devices unattended, and one for, I kid you not, intentional neighborhood disruption through digital slander. She was throwing every term she'd ever read in a legal drama into one desperate word salad. Steve, the HOA president, called me personally that evening. "Don't worry," he said, clearly exhausted. "None of her complaints are sticking. Honestly, the board's considering banning her from filing anything for the next year." I chuckled. "She's not going to take that well?" "I know," he sighed. "But at this point, it's either that or we build a moat around your house." Jake texted me right after, "She's spiraling, bro. It's like watching someone try to unspill a milk truck with a sponge." But I knew Karen. She wasn't spiraling. She was regrouping, and she was far from done. The meeting was set for Thursday night at the community clubhouse, the same place where Karen had spent years wagging her clipboard, passing fines like candy, and lecturing us about neighborhood standards with the passion of a dictator in heels. This time, the tables were turned. I walked in a few minutes early, and the tension was already thick. Every seat was filled. Neighbors packed the back wall, phones in hand, eyes forward. Karen sat at the end of the long table, arms crossed, face stiff. Her hair still had faint streaks of pink that no amount of box dye could hide. Steve sat in the center like a judge trying to stay neutral. But he looked tired. Everyone did. Karen was the first to speak. Of course she was. "I've called this emergency meeting," she announced, voice sharp, "to address the coordinated harassment campaign I've been subjected to." The room murmured. Some people actually laughed. She held up a stack of papers like they were holy scrolls. "I have documentation, evidence, that I've been unfairly targeted by a neighbor who built a weaponized trap specifically designed to cause me harm and humiliate me publicly." Steve raised an eyebrow. "You mean the package you stole?" Karen's face twitched. "I was investigating it." I stood, calm, clear. "That's interesting, because the footage shows you walking directly onto my porch, taking something that didn't belong to you, and then opening it in your own house. That's not investigating, that's theft." Gasps. Jake, sitting in the back row, whispered loud enough for 3 people to laugh, "Tell it, bro." Karen slammed her papers down. "This is a personal vendetta. He's trying to destroy my reputation." Linda, one of the other board members, finally cut in. "Karen, with all due respect, you've filed 47 complaints in the last 4 months against 19 different neighbors." Someone in the back muttered, "She fined me for leaving my bike on the porch." She cited my Halloween decorations in September. She told me my mailbox was too cheerful. Karen looked around, realizing the tide had fully turned. Steve exhaled. "A motion has been submitted to remove Karen Mitchell from the HOA board, effective immediately. All in favor?" Hands went up like it was a reflex. Every single one. Karen's mouth fell open. "You can't do this." "We already did," Steve said simply. Karen stood up so fast, her chair tipped over. "You haven't seen the last of me," she hissed. "This isn't over." I leaned back in my chair, smiling. She was right about one thing. It definitely wasn't over. 2 nights after the HOA meeting, I heard the doorbell. 9:02 p.m. Too late for mail, too early for pizza, too weird to be good. I paused mid-bite of my leftover burrito, slowly stood, and walked to the door. There it was, just like last time. A plain brown box, no label, no shipping tape, no return address, just sitting there like a tiny threat. Jake was on speaker. "Don't open it," he said immediately. "Dude, this is how horror movies start." I grabbed a pair of barbecue tongs from the kitchen, because, safety first, and carefully lifted the box. No hiss, no glitter leak, no visible traps. I took it to the backyard and set it on the grass like it was radioactive. Then, using a stick like I was disarming a snake, I popped the lid open. No bomb, no dye, just a single sheet of paper. On it, written in bold, jagged black marker, "Enjoy the calm while it lasts. This isn't over." I stared at it for a long moment, then slowly exhaled. Jake groaned. "She left you a villain monologue in a box? Who does that?" "Karen," I muttered. "Karen does that." He snorted. "Bro, she's not just mad. She's in her Disney villain era." And honestly, he wasn't wrong. The dramatic handwriting, the cryptic threat. All that was missing was a maniacal laugh and a thunderclap. Still, I didn't toss the note. I kept it, tucked it into the drawer where I kept all the HOA violation letters she'd ever sent me. Like a little shrine to crazy. Because whatever Karen had planned next, it wasn't over lawn lengths or mailbox shades anymore. This had become something bigger. This was war, and she wasn't letting go. The next morning I noticed something strange. Her house was quieter than usual. No curtain twitching, no angry muttering on her porch. Her car was still in the driveway, but her blinds were drawn tight. She'd gone underground, and somehow that was worse. Karen out in the open? You can deal with that. You know what you're up against. But Karen in stealth mode? Karen licking her wounds and plotting? That's the kind of quiet that makes you check your locks twice before bed. Jake texted later, half joking, "She's building a glitter bomb of her own, isn't she?" I didn't answer, because honestly, it kind of felt like she was. It was just after midnight when I saw her. I'd stayed up late, couldn't sleep. Something about that box, that note, it messed with my head. I kept picturing her sitting in her glitter-stained kitchen, scribbling those words like a cartoon villain with a Sharpie and a grudge. I was sipping lukewarm coffee and scrolling through comments on the video, still viral, still growing, when my motion alert pinged. "Front yard." I tapped the feed, and there she was. Karen, standing just beyond the edge of my lawn, right at the curb, not moving, not speaking, just watching. No phone, no dog, no clipboard, just her. Arms at her sides, eyes locked on my house, every hair on my neck stood up. It was the kind of stillness that doesn't make sense, the kind that makes your brain whisper, "Something's wrong." I didn't open the door, I didn't even move. I just stared back through the screen, heart beating way too loud in my ears. Jake was asleep, but I texted him anyway. "She's outside, just standing there." She didn't ring the bell, didn't pace, didn't take a step forward, just stood there in the dark like some HOA-themed ghost story. After what felt like forever, 5, maybe 10 minutes, she finally turned and walked away. Slow, silent, disappeared into the night. I sat there, frozen, phone still in my hand. I replayed the feed just to make sure I hadn't imagined it. Nope, there she was. Same hooded sweatshirt, same empty stare. Not rage, not panic, just cold calculation. And somehow, that was worse. Jake called the next morning as soon as he saw the text. "Dude, that's not normal. You need motion lights, fences, garlic, holy water." "I'm serious, man," I said. She didn't say a word, just stared, like she was waiting for something. He was quiet for a second, then said, "She's unhinged. You know that, right?" Yeah, I did. But until that moment, I didn't realize just how deep her obsession ran. This wasn't just about packages anymore, or the HOA, or glitter. Karen had made me the villain in her story, and now she was rewriting the ending. I didn't know what she'd try next. I didn't know when she'd show up again. But I knew one thing for sure. She wasn't finished, not even close. The second package showed up 4 days later. I almost stepped on it. No knock, no doorbell, just another brown box sitting quietly on my welcome mat, like a landmine made of cardboard and spite. Same size, same look. No label, no tape, no markings, just a box that didn't belong there. I froze. Jake was on the line again. He'd started calling every morning, just in case Karen did something. She did something, I said quietly, staring down at it. Jake groaned. Bro, she's not even pretending anymore. I didn't touch it. I backed away slowly, grabbed my gloves and tongs, and walked it straight to the backyard like I was carrying radioactive glitter. Set it in the grass, sat across from it, took a breath. Then, like the idiot protagonist in every horror movie, I opened the lid. No glitter, no dye, no stench. Just another note. One line. You think you've won, but I've only just begun. No signature, no name, no need. The handwriting was hers. That weird mix of cursive and all caps that screamed, I definitely yell at fast food workers. Jake was quiet when I read it out loud. Then, okay, she's gone full supervillain, like comic book level. I know, I muttered. I think she's trying to mess with my head now. And it was working. Because that note? It was different. It wasn't just a threat. It was a promise. She wasn't just angry anymore. She was focused, patient, like she was trying to wear me down. The kind of person who waits until you're comfortable again, and then makes their next move. I didn't throw the note away. I tucked it into the drawer with the first one, like a badge. Evidence. Or maybe just a reminder that Karen didn't lose quietly. Jake tried to make me laugh. We could send her a response. Glitter-scented cease and desist. Maybe with a skunk sticker. But I wasn't laughing, because this wasn't over some petty HOA feud anymore. This was personal. I'd embarrassed her, publicly. Took away her power, her reputation, her imaginary HOA throne. And Karen? She was the kind of person who didn't forgive, didn't forget, and absolutely didn't let things go. So now every time I get a package, I check it twice. Every time the doorbell rings, I peek first. Because the second box wasn't the end. It was just another reminder. Karen was still out there, and she was planning something. A week passed, then 2. No packages went missing, no glitter bombs exploded, no new complaints taped to my door. On the surface, things were quiet. But the thing about quiet? It's never really peaceful when you know someone like Karen is out there. She hadn't vanished. She hadn't moved. She was still there, in that same house across the street. I saw the lights go on and off, saw the car leave for short stretches, then return. Blinds always closed, no gardening, no walks, no fake smiles, just stillness. And every now and then I'd catch her, peeking. Just a flicker of movement between the slats, a shape behind the curtain, always when I least expected it. She never came to my door again, never said another word. But she didn't have to. I knew she was watching, and she wanted me to know she was watching. Jake called it final boss energy, said it felt like the part in the movie where the villain retreats but leaves behind a creepy music box to remind you they'll be back. And honestly, that's exactly what it felt like. But here's the thing Karen never understood. She's not the only one who knows how to play the long game. I'm watching too. I've got cameras now on every angle, motion lights, backup drives, even a new mailbox, metal, lockable, impossible to tamper with. I don't live in fear. I live in preparation. Because Karen, she's the kind of storm that waits. She'll smile again someday, pretend none of it happened, act like she's reformed, that it was all a misunderstanding, a smear campaign, a neighbor gone rogue. But behind that smile will still be the same person who stole packages, who lied, who threatened, who stared into my window at midnight like a ghost wrapped in HOA bylaws. So let her watch, let her plan. I'll be ready. And if she ever tries to pull another stunt, if she so much as touches another box that isn't hers, I'll have the cameras rolling, the footage ready, and the internet on speed dial. Karen wanted to make me her villain, but all she really did was make sure I'd never let her get away with anything again. She's out there, always watching. And so am I. The difference? I'm not hiding behind the blinds,